Wait, oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. I thought I was a decent singer, but that Sam Jackson, that is some talent. So yes, alright, this is a spoiler talk for Captain Mar-Vell since it's been out for a few days now. If you've not seen it yet, I do recommend going to see it because it's a good movie, like I said. I mean, despite what you've heard, it is a Marvel Cinematic Universe film, so you're gonna go see it no matter what, if you haven't already. This movie made quite a bit of dough on its opening weekend. Like, why wouldn't it? So for those of you who have seen this movie or don't care about the spoilers, let's talk about it. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Let's talk about that opening logo in the film that was the dedication to Stan Lee. Man, oh man, not only did that tug at my heartstrings, but it was actually kind of funny. Because you're used to seeing, you know, Star-Lord and Hulk and Captain America throwing his shield. Instead, it's all like Stan Lee here, Stan Lee there, and all his cameos in all the Marvel movies he's been in. I was like, that is how you pay dedication to Stan Lee, by making it funny. Like his cameo in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that was pretty funny. And his cameo in this movie was also pretty funny. I'm just really sad that I never got to meet him in person, and my younger brother did. Ooh, actually, hang on, I'll be right back. I got his autograph on some Blu-rays, or rather, my brother did. But anyways, let's just dive into this movie. So the movie doesn't actually start out with Captain Mar-Vell crash landing onto Earth. We get a good chunk of time with her on Hala, which is the capital planet of the Kree Empire, I guess. And she goes by the name Vers, V-E-R-S, which I wasn't even thinking about it. I did not assess that that was just the last half of her last name, Danvers. But it did make sense how they gave her that name. And yes, she does spend most of the movie in her green Star Force outfit, because those are the colors of her team. Which, be honest, how many of you, when you saw that blue sniper chick played by Gemma Chan, how many of you thought of Widowmaker from Overwatch? I mean, come on, a blue sniper chick. That's Widowmaker. Except in this movie, she's not an emotionless French assassin with a tragic backstory. She's just an alien who never liked Vers to begin with. That's why they never hung out. I did like that bit of dialogue. That was pretty funny. But alright, let's get to one of the most talked about topics when it comes to this movie. Goose the cat. Deception is a big theme in this movie. There are a lot more to some of these characters than meets the eye. The cat is one of them. When I saw the cat in the trailer, I was like, that is a really cute cat. Looks like Garfield if he were thin. Turns out the cat is actually a species of alien called Flurkin, whose insides are actually like a pocket dimension or something. Tentacles come out of this thing's mouth and just wreak havoc. First time I saw that in this movie, I was like, what the fuck? That was crazy. And kind of funny. And one of the big twists in this movie is that the Skrulls are actually good guys and the Kree are assholes, which ends up making sense because Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy was the villain. He was a Kree, and so you think, okay, Kree are just bad guys. But this movie marketing it as Skrulls are bad guys, Kree are good guys, it confused me. And also the fact that Talos, the leader of the Skrulls, is being played by Ben Mendelsohn, who is always a villain in movies. And like I said, Talos ended up becoming one of my favorite characters. Like the scene where they're at Maria Rambeau's house. He just shows up out of nowhere. He's like, you really ought to be nicer to your neighbors. You never know when you're gonna need to borrow some sugar. And then Carol gets ready to blast him. He's like, wait a minute, before you go swinging your jazz hands around, making a mess of this lovely home. I was like, okay, so he's actually like a chill villain. He's kind of funny. And then it reveals that the Skrulls are good guys. I was like, Talos is awesome. But on the flip side of that, that makes Jude Law, Yon-Rogg, really the main villain of the movie. And I gotta say, as a villain, Jude Law, Yon-Rogg was kind of boring. He just was. I mean, talk about stoic. He was more stoic than Brie Larson in this movie, in my opinion. So emotionless, he might as well be a Vulcan. But you do have Ronan the Accuser in this movie. You saw him a little bit in the trailers. Turns out he doesn't have that black makeup on his face yet. And his outfit has that green, like the Star Force outfits. He also sounded younger. It was Lee Pace, the same actor. And I actually liked how sparingly Ronan was used in the movie. Like, he first shows up as a hologram that Yon-Rogg is talking to, and then you see him later in the final action scene where they're gonna, you know, invade Earth, which I'll get to that scene later. Let's talk about the character Mar-Vell, because in my review I said the character of Mar-Vell is in this movie, and we all thought it was gonna be Jude Law, but it wasn't him. The character Mar-Vell was actually Annette Bening, and this is where the meat of the story of this movie is. The way I understand it, Mar-Vell was a Kree who betrayed her own kind because she realized that the Kree are assholes. I guess somehow she got word that the Tesseract is on Earth. So she went down to Earth, disguised herself as a human being, you know, she called herself Wendy Lawson, which yeah, in the comics, the original Captain Mar-Vell, the man was Walter Lawson, so Wendy Lawson, I guess, is the female version of it. Another gender switch like the ancient one in Doctor Strange. But anyway, she teamed up with S.H.I.E.L.D. for their whole Project Pegasus thing, which actually has been mentioned in a couple of other Marvel movies or TV shows. It has been mentioned before. In this movie, they call Project Pegasus a joint venture between NASA and the US Air Force. What they failed to mention is that S.H.I.E.L.D. has also been involved in that. In fact, it was started by S.H.I.E.L.D. and the World Security Council. Basically, what Project Pegasus was is that they were studying the Tesseract to make new weapons and technology. That's what it was. And at this point, we all know the Tesseract is the Space Stone, one of the Infinity Stones. So when Wendy Lawson got involved, she thought she could use a Tesseract to make a lightspeed engine to find the Skrulls, who are refugees, the good guys in this whole war, a new home, safe from the Kree Empire. So it does fit into MCU lore. You know, Wendy Lawson was working with S.H.I.E.L.D., and so she had her Kree laboratory up in orbit. So there you go, it fits. And ultimately, this lightspeed engine was created, but that's what led to the crash, which ultimately gave Carol Danvers her powers. So the way I see it, Carol Danvers got her huge powers from the Tesseract, from the Space Stone. Kind of like how Quicksilver Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch got their powers from the Mind Stone. That's how I see it anyway. It makes sense to me. It was pretty cool figuring that out. It was like a mystery element unraveling the secrets of her past. How Yon-Rogg straight up lied to her about the whole Kree versus Skrulls thing. And then we get to the big action at the end, like that aerial dogfight scene, which straight up reminded me of something out of Star Wars. No, seriously, is there anyone who didn't think of Star Wars when that scene came up? Come on. The scene itself seemed like a mix of a pod race and the Death Star trench scene. It was cool, it was just a bit derivative. But I do love it when Captain Marvel finally realizes her full potential, her full power. She's like, I've been fighting with one hand behind my back. What finally happens when I'm set free? And all of a sudden she just breaks free of this AI that's been constraining her. All the Kree around her are like, what? And then she just proceeds to wreck house. And this whole scene is going on while the song Just a Girl by No Doubt is playing in the background, which, alright, yeah, that's the whole feminism thing. It didn't really bother me that much. Maybe because I'm not as familiar with that song as, say, Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. This didn't annoy me as much as that scene in Thor Ragnarok. Come on, that scene was so awesome. It was building up with a score, and then Led Zeppelin starts. It's the same song for the second time. I was like, ruined it. In this movie, I felt it worked. The feminism thing that bothered me came a little later, when she and Jude Law are like down in the middle of the desert, and Jude Law is all like, prove to me that you have what it takes to face me one-on-one. Then she just blasts him down, and she walks up to him, she's all like, I have nothing to prove to you. That was a line where I was like, alright, that's your feminist line. Like, there's a pause after that line. You know, I guess the movie was expecting applause there from the audience. My audience didn't cheer for that. Again, it's not like it brought the movie down, it's just a line I wasn't a huge fan of. The epilogue of this movie has some pretty cool stuff to talk about though. Like Fury's pager, which you saw earlier in the movie. Carol Danvers hands it to him, she's like, I've upgraded it. Its range should be a couple galaxies now, which, Jesus Christ, like this small little device that's like yay big can reach someone a few galaxies away? What kind of technology is that? She hands it to him, she's like, for emergencies only. So, alright, there you go. We certainly have an emergency now. And how Nick Fury loses his eye. Okay, I kind of see both sides of the argument here. Like, yeah, it is kind of dumb, you know, because Nick Fury built up in Winter Soldier, last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. It makes it sound like someone betrayed him and it was like this big epic moment or whatever. No, it just turns out that the cat scratched it out. He did say to the cat earlier, he's like, I'm trusting you not to eat me. But I see the flip side of the argument being like, Nick Fury was bluffing the whole time. Like the scene in Winter Soldier where he tells Cap that, he was probably just trying to scare him. I honestly don't know what to think of the whole situation. Do I think it's stupid? Sure. Do I really care? Not really. I never really cared how Nick Fury lost his eye. It was such a trivial detail in the broad scope of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. There are bigger things to worry about than how Nick Fury lost his eye. So the fact that it was just the cat scratching it out didn't bother me too much because there are bigger fish to fry here. And that's my take on it. So Captain Marvel's like, okay, I'm gonna find the Skrulls a new home. Before I dive into this, I want to talk about that scene where she's flying up and then, you know, she sees the Skrulls and they're waving at her. That final scene with her. The score in that scene is so heroically triumphant and triumphantly heroic. It straight up sounded like John Williams' Superman. Like, seriously. It's not featured on the soundtrack album. Why? That bummed me out, Pinar. But anyway, I guess that answers the question where she's been for the past 23 years. She's been out trying to find the Skrulls a new home. Does that really take 2 decades to do? I figure after finding the Skrulls a new home, she has to go fight the rest of the Kree Empire. So that's probably what she's been doing. But that's my reasoning. The movie doesn't actually ever tell us. Maybe it'll explain more in Avengers Endgame. It probably will. And then at the very end of the movie, Nick Fury is sitting at his desk. He's working on this Protector initiative. He gets to this picture of Carol Danvers in front of her jet, and her jet says Captain Carol Avenger Danvers. And he's like, okay, I like that better. So you see him backspace on the word Protector, and you hear the Avengers theme queuing up in the background, which I love it when that happens. Whenever we have a Marvel movie that's not an Avengers movie, and we hear the Avengers theme in it because there's a scene that has to do with the Avengers, like the beginning of Spider-Man Homecoming, where it's the Avengers Tower and you hear the Avengers theme, I love that. It just solidifies the Avengers theme as like a major modern theme for this generation that people are gonna remember. If I asked you right now, what is the Avengers theme? You'd know the answer. Bum, 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 bum. It's great. Now let's get to that mid-credit scene because holy shit, that was an awesome mid-credit scene. But I do have a couple of questions. It starts out with a shot of that pager that Nick Fury dropped, and immediately I was like, how did the Avengers get a hold of it? Like, I know this facility is in upstate New York, but I'm not sure what city Nick Fury and Maria Hill were in when the decimation happened. Who found that pager? Were the Avengers just doing like a city patrol or something? I don't know. Again, maybe they'll answer it in Avengers Endgame. I hope they do because I'm really scratching my head on that one. You see Captain America still has his beard. He didn't have it in the Avengers Endgame trailer, so the scene probably happens early on in Avengers Endgame itself. Black Widow still has her blonde hair, which I don't like her with blonde hair. Can we actually have her with her signature red hair? I know it's really trivial, again, it's a nitpick, but when we get our main poster for Avengers Endgame, I want it to be iconic, and I want Nat to have her red hair. But the pager stops working, and Natasha's like, I want to know whoever's on the other end of that line. And she turns around, and boom, Captain Marvel's right there. She's like, where's Fury? To which I say, I'll do her one better. Wise Fury. That line was so stupid in Infinity War. But that new outfit actually looks really awesome. She's got the gold shoulder pads. That looks really cool. The emblem looks a little different. I like it. And I'm curious how her chemistry is going to be with the other Avengers. How is she going to interact with Captain America and Black Widow and everyone? I'm looking forward to seeing that interaction. And the post-credits scene. Who cares? Who's cops up the Tesseract? Okay, so it's back on Earth with S.H.I.E.L.D. Good, now it really flows with the story. In the end, I did have a good time with Captain Marvel. I'm currently working at a movie theater, so I walked in on Captain Marvel in 3D during my break one time. The 3D was actually pretty good. Like, surprisingly, really good. Maybe 3D is the way to go, but then again, it wasn't during one of the shaky cam action scenes, but it just really surprised me. I'm just saying. So Captain Marvel, what was your favorite part of the movie, and what was your least favorite part of the movie? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.